Hi everyone, my name is Kara McGuire and I am presenting on Chapter 12 in Coercion and its Fallout by Sidman. This chapter is titled Coercion and Conscience. So Sidman opens up about the idea of right and wrong and the internal and external conflict. He talks about the ideas that tempt us to make decisions that conflict with our moralistic choices. So some examples he gives is accepting payment in the form of bribery, or forging data to gain research grants, awards, and prizes. He compares these ideas with those who take no risks that put their financial stability or personal freedom in jeopardy. He then goes into talking about conscience. He talks about how once we have a well-developed conscience, we won't fall into the temptations. So Sidman refers to the at the end of this section, he refers to children as selfish, because he says because they are not born with a conscience. He goes on later in this chapter to talk about an example of a child, and goes through a rather vivid example of a child with a vase. But he says that children only think of themselves and not others around them. He does go on and talks about how those who do break the rules will break the rules whatever the cost may be. And then those who follow the rules, they live their lives by the book. Sidman refers to conscience as a shorthand colloquialism for the proclivity to perform moral behavior in the face of the conflicting contingencies. So this is where Sidman talks about us making bad choices and good choices, but he talks about how we do that with using a voice within us to keep us on the right track. He goes into talking about how most often conscience is used when we are making a choice where punishment is one of the outcomes. He does this. He gives two great examples in this chapter, using one using the rat who pulls the lever for food, and then as I stated earlier, he does this through using an example of a child with a vase. So first we have the rat. So he goes on to discuss the rat, and that if the rat could talk, which there's no certainty, but that they would claim to be happy for pressing the lever to get the food. But rather the rat would say it was doing the right thing. So if pressing the lever turns into a punishment, it will still tempt the rat to continue to press the lever. The rat may approach the lever, but may run to the back of the cage each time. It may continue every so often to approach the lever and receive a shock by just looking at the lever. May cause it to react to a shock that may not have occurred. So if the rat now could talk, it would more than likely say that it was not doing the right thing by pressing the lever. So here Sidman examines not just the reactions of the rat to aversive stimuli, but the reaction of the rat to the warning signals of the stimuli. And he goes on to say, ultimately, no organism is born with an innate sense of what's punishing in society. The next example he goes into is the child with the vase. So he talks about as children in general start to get older, and there might be some moms out there in class who totally understand this and have seen this in their own homes, but he talks about as children start to grow to get a little bit bigger, moving from just the high chair, they start to crawl. Now they're walking around, and they turn into these little explorers, right? And they're exploring all new shapes, all new sounds, all new colors, all those shiny things around the house. So in this situation, the mom is making sure to keep her eye always on the child as much as possible, to keep their child safe. So as soon as the child goes to push the vase, the mom goes over and says, "No, no, don't touch, bad." And the child cries and moves away from the vase. The baby still sees the vase and is still tempted to go over and touch it. Just as the baby puts her hand on the vase, the mom says, "No, no, bad." But the child is still tempted. As the child goes to touch the vase, the child then says, "No, no, bad, don't touch." And now that child is internalizing that, and that therefore is changing that child's behavior. So the example of both the rat and the child show the importance of the voice that we have within. It is made up of behavior that ultimately gives us a signal and brings about the behavior of avoidance. The child avoided touching the vase again. The rat avoids pulling the lever. So the organism has to experience punishing contingencies to learn and interact with the environment through coercive control to build what we refer to as that human conscience. He does talk about, and I found this interesting, that how for the child, the word bad became that warning signal, right? The mom said, "Bad, bad, don't touch," or "No, no, bad, don't touch." This ultimately, as that child grows up to become an adult, could lead to more terms like illegal. That's the things that are illegal in our world. As an adult, or the word immoral was another word. So Sitman seems to make an argument that society focuses too much on building good individual conscience, as a society cannot control for everyone's access to consistent punishment or reinforcement. So one example of this is, why do some people consistently perform poor moral decision making, seem to never get punished? Have we failed those people in society? This experiment in coercive control does not seem to apply equally to everyone and has created a double standard in society. Sidman says that morality is frequently a tool for maintaining the conscience of those who cannot afford to get caught breaking the law. And I found that quite powerful, especially in the world we live in. And this is so powerful by showing that those who do not have the same contingencies are not always reprimanded for their actions or reprimanded in the same way for their actions. So for my questions, I said, why do some people who consistently perform poor decision making never get punished? And have we failed those people by not punishing them? And then what temptations do you give into, and what temptations can you resist? Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this presentation.